Welcome to Casual Mania, and still your bantamweight champion of the world, Aljamain, the Funkmaster Sterling. Man, what a performance by the man! It caught me entirely off guard how good he was in this fight because I've always been a fan of Aljamain, apart from obviously the one instance. But going into this, he was coming up against Cejudo. Cejudo seems one of the greatest combat athletes who ever lived, Olympic gold medalist, two-time champion. I thought Cejudo was going to come back and get it done, but Aljamain, he just he's just got my respect so much after this performance. And unlike the rest of the casuals who fucking despise this man, I'm gonna give credit where it's due and say that Aljamain, like, how can he still be getting so much hate after what he's accomplishing? We're gonna go through it all, but it's insane. It's absolute insanity. But yeah, Aljamain defends his title by split decision, and I thought this was unanimous. I thought this was the most obvious unanimous decision I've ever seen. Anyone saying Aljamain Sterling lost this fight, you're just a hater. Like, it's literally that simple. You are a hater. You're biased against Aljamain, and that's it, because it was just so, it was 3-2 minimum and 4-1 maximum. The only clear round Henry Cejudo had in this entire fight was round 5, and the rounds that other people were giving him, saying he won, it's just based off casualness. This has got me so mad because Aljamain, he does not deserve the amount of hate that he's getting, and I'm just feeling so bad for him because he's clearly putting the work in. He's improving so much from fight to fight, and yet he's just getting booed out of the building on every single occasion. So I'm going to defend this man. Aljamain came out starting the fight real aggressively, forward pressure, almost for the entirety of the fight, to be honest, and just mixing up the striking so well between his kick and punches. And he just, his striking it continues to, like, his overall game, everything about what Aljamain's done continues to improve. But I just think back against that first Piotr Jan fight where he almost had this similar kind of approach where he was going in so hundies from the very beginning, throwing everything at his opponent. But in that first fight against Jan, that was to his detriment because he ended up gassing and was thrown around for pretty much the rest of the fight. But in this, like, he's clearly just been improving so much because his cardio was maintained throughout the entirety of the fight, and his footwork, his defense, he was making Cejudo hit air for so much of it. He had really good leg kicks, which were just, oh, they looked excruciating. And he was just mixing it up so well with just such a variety of attacks. Mixing in the grappling in there too, which the fact that Aljamain was out wrestling Henry Cejudo for most of this fight, an Olympic gold medalist, is insane. And like, this is what I mean when I'm saying Aljamain's not getting any credit for his performance. Like, he obviously is getting some, but it's just overwhelming negativity. And like, recognize what this man's done. He went in there. I thought Aljamain was going to get ragdolled. I thought if anything, he'd have the advantage on the ground, like with the jiu-jitsu. And just when it came to the straight up wrestling, though, I thought Aljamain would probably be getting taken down a lot, and I didn't think he'd be even able to take down Cejudo at all, probably. But he's just proved me absolutely wrong here. He was able to take Cejudo down 4 times throughout the fight. It was able to hold him against the clinch a lot, landing a lot of good shots in up close. And Cejudo, he did all right in the grappling too. Like, he was able to manage 3 takedowns himself, but Aljamain just looked superior in pretty much every aspect of this fight throughout the majority of it. So round 1, Aljamain outstruck Cejudo 29-15. 20 of those were significant to 7 and landed 2 takedowns. Cejudo landed 1 himself. So this was a clear round for Aljamain, especially when you factor in the aggression, the pressure, the octagon control, and just everything. It was Aljamain's round. I don't think anyone's disputing that one. Round 2, this round I thought was almost dead even. Like, this was almost impossible to decide a winner of. Because total strikes, Aljamain 29-31, same, they were all significant. And so really this was just completely up in the air. And scoring it live, I did give this round to Cejudo. I just thought his leg kicks were probably the most significant thing of the round. I don't know, like, if I had to think of something, that's just what I thought of. So I ended up giving this round to Cejudo, but it was such a dead even round. And then round 3, this is the round that everyone is thinking that Cejudo won, which he just did not win at all. And I knew as soon as this round ended that everyone would be thinking that Cejudo won this round, because Aljamain was controlling like the entirety of this round. with the striking. He outstruck Cejudo 26 significant strikes to 15, was able to take him down, was able to hold him, establish octagon control with his grappling, and Cejudo gets one takedown at the end of the round and the crowd pops, and I was like, there you go, everyone will have thought Cejudo won the round, because it really is like the last 10 seconds of a round, you can just do something, and then it was like, oh yeah, he won that round. Even Joe Rogan was saying himself at one point, I don't know if it was in this fight or if it was in the co-main event, he was like, yeah, no, I tend to favour the fighter that wins the end of the round. It's like, why? So if you favour a fighter who wins the end, like, what's the point in even having the beginning of a round? Like, it's just absolutely stupid. And yeah, so Aljamain, he outstruck Cejudo in this round. They both had a takedown each, so there's just nothing, like, I can't believe everyone was thinking Cejudo won this round. Go back and rewatch it. It was just so clearly Aljamain for pretty much 95% of it, except for just the very end with that takedown. So yeah, round 3, Aljamain again. Round 4, clearly Aljamain again. So at this point, he's already up 3 rounds to 1. So he's won the decision regardless of what happened in round 5. He outstruck him 50. He doubled the amount of strikes landed in this round, 52 to 24 with 1 takedown. And Aljamain was just looking so good in this fight, and he was just blowing me away constantly because he started off good, but then I was like, oh, is he going to fade away? Like, maybe he's just going to have a strong start and not be able to maintain it, but nah, his cardio held up, and his footwork as well. Like, he was making Cejudo miss so much of his shots, and people were like, oh, look at Aljamain just running the entire fight. Like, what a little bitch. So, Cejudo was hitting air for so much of this. So round 4, another round for Aljamain, and then round 5, Cejudo came out real aggressively. Like, this is what Cejudo needed to do more of throughout the fight. He came out real aggressive, was just moving forward, not giving Aljamain any space, was able to take him down again. And yeah, so this was a clear round for Cejudo. So it was either 4 rounds to 1 for Aljamain or 3 rounds to 2, but either way, it was just such an obvious win for Aljamain Sterling. And I hate the narrative that it's just such bias that I despise. And I mean, Aljamain's just going to continue to get that. Like, he bet Henry Cejudo and he's still not getting respect. So at this point, I don't really know what will. And it's a shame to see because he's such a talented fighter. And I hated him just as much as everyone else did when he faked that knee. Well, whether he faked it or not, like, he did get hit. Before that fight, Aljamain was like one of my favourite fighters in the UFC. I was so gassed for him to be getting a title shot. I really wanted him to win that belt. Petr Yan, first of all, Yan, he's the one who got DQ'd. He's the one who threw the knee when he shouldn't have. And Aljamain, the theatrics afterwards were just the most cringe thing I'd ever seen. Like, it was just such obvious acting, I thought, and it was just, like, you go back and rewatch it, the acting just looked terrible. But, like, after that, though, and he did, like, he celebrated a bit winning the title. Yeah, I guess that's a bit controversial, but everyone's like, oh, Aljamain, the most cringe fighter ever. I just, like, and all this hatred, like, I just think it's so overblown. Like, what has he even really done since then to even warrant the amount of hate? And he's gotten real unlucky with his title defenses and was like, oh, he's just the luckiest champion in UFC history. The rematch with Yan, real close fight. He was able to edge that one, but just because it was a close fight, no one's going to say he won. And then the Dillashaw fight absolutely dominated and was like, oh, TJ was injured though. So, like, as if just because TJ's injured, Aljamain's meant to take it easy on him and make it a closer fight. Like, Aljamain, he went out there and just dominated. So what else can you expect from him? And now he's beaten Henry Cejudo. Like, I did not expect him to beat Cejudo at all, even though I wanted him to, especially to shut the haters up, but obviously it hasn't done that. But the split decision, it's able to keep the narrative going that Aljamain's just this lucky fighter who can't even get a win. And I hate it so much. It's really annoying. I think Cejudo's corner really let him down this fight, to be honest, because in the corner the entire time, they were telling him, oh yeah, no, you're up in the scorecard, you're winning this fight, it's a close fight, but you're winning. And the commentary were like, oh, I don't know about that. Like, it's a pretty close fight, but I'm pretty sure Aljamain's up on the scorecards, which I believed in. I thought, like I said, round 2 was close. But like at the point where they were going over this, I thought Aljamain was clearly up, And yeah, so his corner, I think, really worked to his detriment in this. And yeah, that kind of sucks for him because maybe if he was encouraged a bit more to go harder, like, I don't know how he even thought he was winning the fight really, because he was losing pretty much the majority of the striking exchanges. And I think if Aljamain kept it more on the feet, he may have even been able to win this a bit easier. But he kept going for the takedown, which Aljamain's takedowns, it's the one thing I'll say, they're so telegraphed, they're so easy to see coming. There's no real speed or power to them. They're just, especially for someone like Cejudo, easy to defend. And maybe, I think his corner said it too, if you keep this standing, like, that's where you're winning the fight, so keep it there. Unless you've got him against the fence, then hold him there and try to take him down there. But apart from that, you're like, it was just such a great performance by Aljamain. And I can't stop going on about it because someone's got to. Like, the hate this man receives, there's got to be someone out there to give him respect, so I want to be that guy. Sean O'Malley got in the cage afterwards, called out Aljamain, obviously, the little face-off. Marab stealing the Thriller jacket, and Sean talking a bunch of shit like, oh, you better be way better than that if you're going to fight me. And I'm just like, what? Like, what are you talking about? I think Sean O'Malley gets rolled by either Aljamain or Marab, unless he's got those yarn judges again on his side, but I mean, we'll have to wait and see. But anyway, like, regardless of that, I'm really hyped for that matchup, and you can argue whether O'Malley is deserving of a title shot or not. I don't really think he's the most deserving, but I don't care either. I think that's the most entertaining fight to make at the moment. Like, I think that's probably the biggest fight at bantamweight, clearly, I think you can make. The trash talk between them would be good, and then the fight itself, like, that'll be interesting. Like, maybe O'Malley, because for starters, he did way better against Yarn than I even expected at all. Even though I still thought he didn't win that fight, I thought, like, he proved that he belongs in the top of the division. So maybe he'll continue to make improvements and be able to hold himself up against Aljamain. Who knows? Like, same kind of thing Jamal Hill did. Like, he's one of my favourite fighters, but going against Glover Teixeira, didn't know how well he was going to fare in the grappling, defended pretty much every takedown in the fight. So it's not impossible, but be interesting to see that, and I can't wait for that. And then the co-main event, disappointing result. Well, I mean, I'm more of a Burns fan than Bilal fan, so, but I think just the fight as a whole, not really what I wanted. I wanted a bit more of a banger. And unfortunately, Gilbert Burns was injured early on, shoulder, arm, something of that degree, and Bilal was able to just tee off on him really for the rest of the fight. Remember the decision. That name's never fading away. But yeah, just, I didn't expect this to be a war, but I thought it maybe had potential to be. But because, like, even the commentary was saying at one point, oh, this isn't the Gilbert Burns we used to seeing, this isn't the Gilbert we know. Like, to be honest, the only time Gilbert's ever really went in a straight-up war was when he went up against Khamzat Chimaev. Then after that, everyone was like, oh yeah, Gilbert Burns is like the biggest dog in the UFC. It's like, it's the only fight where he's ever really fought like that. And I thought, I mean, if he wasn't injured, he probably would have brought it to Bilal a lot more. I mean, clearly, like, he couldn't even throw his left arm at all. But Bilal, like, he was able to get the win. I thought he won every single round easily. But it's just, like, I feel like he could just do more, especially with the amount of shit he's been talking. He wants to overtake Colby for a title shot, and to really propel himself, like, into that kind of stratosphere of, you know, he wants to be this big deal in the division. Like, you need to go out there and put in performances that kind of, like, earn that distinction, because while this was a dominant performance, I feel like he probably could have got Burns out of there on so many occasions, but Bilal, like, he just doesn't really ever go for the finish. Like, he was backing Burns up, and obviously, like, Burns was injured as anyway, so, like, he was a one-armed fighter, and Bilal, like, he was able to just tee off on him with these. The body kicks were absolutely lethal, and he was just throwing head kicks over and over, spamming on that injured side. And like I said, he'd back Burns up against the cage. Burns would just be covering up, not really throwing anything back at all. And like, Bilal, he would just go back to the center of the ring, and I'm just like, why are you doing that? Just follow up, just start teeing off on him. You'd probably just get him out of there. Like, it didn't really look like he even wanted to be in there anyway at that point, so should have just gone for it. But yeah, unfortunately, we had to see that for 5 rounds. So yeah, disappointing fight, but Bilal gets the win. It's another instance of Bilal Muhammad just proving me completely wrong, I guess, because like, despite the injury, I'm just going to put that aside and just look at this as a straight win for Bilal, because like every single fight Bilal's been having on the streak, I've been like, yeah, no, this is the one when he loses. This is the one. I think a lot of people have been thinking that exact same thing too. And, he's just proving people wrong yet again. I don't know how he's doing it. I guess his training is just, he's got an insane training regime going on, and he's 100% dedicated to proving the masses wrong as well, which he's doing. So he will get the next title shot, I'm assuming, after Colby Covington. That will either result in him having the rematch against Leon Edwards after that no contest, or going up against Colby, which, I mean, I'm kind of fine with either of those, but as more of a Colby fan, I'd obviously like to see Colby get that belt and defend it against Bilal and roll that dude. So let's hope that happens. And then Jessica Andrade got stopped in round one. Shades of Fabrizio Verdun with Stipe Miocic, kind of like, it was like as soon as she was getting tagged off by Yaj, I don't know. I'm just going to say Jan. Is it Jan or Jan? It's one of the two. But anyway, Jessica Andrade was running forward. It was like as soon as she started getting tagged on, she was like, oh, I just can't compete in the stand-up. I'm just running for it, and just ran straight into a fucking bomb and just got stopped in the first round. Easy money. So make a China card, make that Weili Zhang like defending her title in that main event, because I think that would be a really good fight. And it's just so good actually having new contenders in the women's division that can actually strike and make fights interesting. So that's really good too. We also had Movsar Evilov getting the unanimous decision win against Diego Lopez in his debut, who had like a way better performance I think anyone would have believed. This got fight of the night, and yeah, it really was just back and forth. Like Diego, like he wasn't giving up through the entirety of the fight, and Movsar, like he continues to establish himself as a good up and comer in that division. So call that Korean Zombie, maybe make that fight, I guess. And Crone Gracie, bringing disrespect to the name. No, I don't know. Like the Gracie guys, I get it. Like Royce Gracie, like put the UFC like where, although there wouldn't be UFC without Royce really. Like he was just such a like it's legacy. That's what it is. It's a legacy to the UFC. But how long ago was that? Like when did that first UFC event take place? Because like they're really kind of stretching this out, if you know what I mean. Like we haven't really seen any Gracies do that much shit apart like since then really, and they keep getting hyped up like they're going to be these big deals, but then they just don't really have any well-rounded game. Like they're just so one-dimensional, and like this fight is just a perfect example of that. There's no real evolution to the game. Drew Dober getting stopped in the prelims, I think like you could argue it was an early stoppage. I'd say slightly. The amount of damage Dober has taken before, that chin of his is usually granite and can usually withstand damage. And even when he is getting hurt, he's usually able to recover and come back. So I think you could have given him more time to recover, because we've seen him do it. But I mean, it's still a good win for Favola regardless. Performance of the night worthy. And yeah, this card was alright. I mean, I thought the main event was completely worth it, and was just, I love Aljamain, I really do. The fact that everyone is so against him has made me even more on his side, and like, I was able to go from loving him to really hating him for the DQ, even though like, it wasn't even his fault. It wasn't even his fault, but it was just so, I was like, oh, what the fuck are you doing that for? And then like he just continued to earn my respect though with his improvements he's making and these performances and these wins. Like he's got the longest win streak in bantamweight history now, and I think the most title defenses in a row too. So like, yeah, the more people keep hating on him, the more I'm just going to continue to back him and like just show the man some respect for what he's doing. Like just put the hate aside for 1 second and actually just look at what's happening. Interesting card, great main event, great title defense, and I can't wait for Aljamain to defend that belt again against O'Malley. That should be a banger.